What's good, everybody? In today's episode, we're talking about understanding hatred and why hatred equals the lack of understanding of others. For those of you watching the video style of this blog, yes, I know I did cut all my hair off. I know it's definitely a big change from before. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. It's definitely really useful, especially because I wear a helmet all day here in Bali while driving. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to grow it back, but we'll see. Okay, back to the reason for this video. That is to discuss why, as humans, we hate. So, as I observe society as it is in the present moment, I see two spectrums that are coming through quite a bit, and that is an immense amount of love and an immense amount of hate. Today, we're going to focus on why people are led to hate others. Since moving to Indonesia, I've been able to befriend certain groups of people that I simply would not have been able to have access to in other places. And I've learned a lot from that. I have a list right beside me, and I've befriended Chinese people, Russian people, South African people, German people, Jewish people, Muslim people, Hindu people, gay people, transgender people, people who believe in capitalism, people who believe in imperialism, people who believe in fascism, people who believe in communism. Hatred towards these groups of people have been the number one cause for all wars amongst humanity in the past, present, and probably future. The issue is not that we are all different, it's simply our lack of understanding for one another. I want to give you an example from my own personal life that may show you how this is true. Have you ever met someone, whether at school or at work, that for some reason, at the first initial meeting of them, just rubbed you the wrong way? Whether it was the clothes they're wearing or what they initially said to you, or simply other rumors that you've heard about this person prior to actually meeting them. I remember experiencing this all the time back in college. As a finance major, oftentimes we'd have these huge group projects, and the professor would assign us partners, whether it was just one other person or five other people, that we'd all kind of team together to complete these assignments that often were a huge part of our semester grade. I remember once I got paired with this dude, and I swear he looked like right before that class started, he went to the bathroom to shoot up heroin or something. He just had that type of look to him. I remember taking a look at this guy, and then when the professor said that we'll be assigned together, the first thing going through my mind was, damn, I'm going to have to do probably double the work because either this guy is not going to show up for class or he's simply going to drop out in the first 2 weeks, and then I'm going to be left with the entire project, and this is going to suck. Now, thinking this way throughout the entire rest of the class while we were just learning the random lesson of the day from our professor, I remember staring over at this dude and just being hypercritical of everything he did. I remember criticizing his clothing and the way he was sitting in his chair and just the multiple tattoos that filled his entire body. It was just like terrible tattoos. I'm like, who put that on your why would you ever get that? And I remember also when the professor would look at the board, he like hit his vape pen just in the middle of class, which is kind of hilarious, but also like, I don't want this dude to be my partner if he's doing that, So I was just picking apart everything he was doing that day. I simply hated the way this dude carried himself. I remember everything changed when him and I were assigned by the professor to work on the PowerPoint part of the entire project for our group. And I hit him up and said, hey, let's head to the library soon, get 2 hours done on this presentation to kind of get us off to a good start. So some time passes, and the time for us to meet the library finally comes up, and we meet the library and we're talking one-on-one. And I would say within less than a minute, all of the criticisms and hatreds I had towards this person no longer existed. Less than a minute, I immediately went from very much disliking him to seeing him as a normal dude. And then it probably took about 10 minutes or so for me to realize this dude may turn into one of my best friends. So we weren't discussing like the algebraic formula that we're going to use for the presentation. Instead, in those 10 minutes, we talked about our families, our friends, what it was like growing up as an only child, and most importantly, which girl in class was the hottest. So this guy went on to be one of my best friends throughout my entire college experience. We'd hang out outside a classroom, we'd party together, and whenever a group project happened in the semesters that followed, we hoped that we were assigned to be partners together because we really hit it off like that. It turned into a great friendship. So I know this could be kind of like a textbook example of don't judge a book by its cover, but I really don't feel like that slogan is doing this experience and other experiences I had any real justice. I learned from this interaction and many others a much deeper lesson, and that is the only reason we hate other people is due to our lack of information and understanding. Simply, the better I understood him, the less I hated him. In a world where we fully understand one another, it is impossible for hatred to exist. I want you to think about it. So the main difference between the hater and the hated is distance. It's easy to hate Muslims, Russians, Chinese people when they're literally located on the other side of the world from you. However, if they were your classmate, your coworker, your neighbor, you will soon realize that they're the same as you, human. As humans, fear is the primary source of our decision making. And fear arises most when we encounter something that is completely foreign to us. So people who look different, who eat different food, who worship a different God, all inspire fear in us because they're different. And I'm not saying that being fearful is necessarily a bad thing. For thousands of years, this fear emotion that we received when we saw people or things that were different from us is what kept us alive. If we didn't have that fearful emotion come up when a different mammal or animal would approach us, or even a different tribe would approach our tribe, we probably wouldn't be that safe and probably wouldn't be alive. However, in a world that is relatively peaceful and as connected as we are now, this fear towards foreign ideas and people simply no longer serves us. Now, I share all this not to act as if I've overcame all of my hatred and biases towards others, because that's definitely not the case. I still have plenty of hatred and plenty of biases. I'm now at least a little bit more cognizant of it. I'm making this video to remind myself how I am going to choose, how I aspire to view the world going forward. Embodying this lesson is simply the only way that as humans, we can achieve inner and outer peace. I challenge you to examine your own beliefs and question any biases or prejudices that you may have towards others. If we seek to understand why other people act the way they act, understanding other people will leave our hearts to be filled with much more compassion and empathy instead of hatred. I challenge you to examine the current prejudices and hatred that we all may have towards others. If we are cognizant of the fact that fear is oftentimes a driving force for our prejudice and hatred towards others, and we seek to understand others and why they act the way they do, that will lead us to have our hearts and minds filled with compassion and empathy for others instead of hatred. The only difference between love and hate is understanding. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'm really loving the process of writing and making these videos, so expect more to be coming every single week. Until then, I want y'all to know that I love you all so incredibly much and hope you have a great week. See you soon.